Welcome back, episode 48 of the Ground Up podcast. So we've got Jimbo with us.
Primarily, we're a development and investment company developing commercial to residential conversions. Got about 15 million sort of in build at the minute.
You've gone for upper end bungalows, more of a niche clientele.
We got the purchase price from like 1.3 down to 550.
Bloody hell.
We all know as running businesses, right, and especially in development, it's stressful. Everyone's got their own little thing of how they vent that out.
Are you a Jack level where you're working every second, every hour? Are you more like Stu, you know, you go on the fucking bougie holidays?
That's a lot to take in there.
For me, it's going hiking. Go out in the mountains, not seeing anyone, not doing anything. It just de-stress, if you like.
I had a haircut yesterday.
So look, big reveal.
Wow! We've got a potential demographic collapse on the corner, but now they can take skin cells, they can stick it in basically a test tubes, take the stem cells out and grow eggs off of your DNA. Aren't people going to start stealing like celebrities' skin? I can't wait to nick Harry Styles' baby.
Ground up sound, ooh yeah, real estate deals. We lay them down, let's get those deals. Deals, deals, making money, baby.
Welcome back, episode 48 of the Ground Up podcast. And today we have a special guest on, Mr. Jim, who we'll come to shortly. But if you're new to the podcast, then thank you for clicking on this. Make sure you subscribe. And we are 4 property developers based in the UK doing over £250 million in the development pipeline. You've got Mr. Jack Jiggins sipping his coffee down in the home counties. You've got Stuart, Wyeth. I always fuck that up.
Morning.
Wyeth.
That's Wyeth, mate. You nailed it now.
Fucking beautiful.
Stuart, Wyeth.
Wife. Mate, in all transcripts, your surname comes out as wife, which always gives me a little bit of amusement. There we've got Stuart. Usually we have Mr. D, Mr. Dorian Payne, who is meant to be here, but he's late today.
Yeah, we got a notice out. Anyone found a missing man?
Yeah.
He'll either be in a library or playing piano.
Drinking Red Bull. D will be here soon, anyway. And but we also have our guest today, a good friend of ours, Mr. Jim from Crossover Property. His name's actually James, but that is true. Your name's actually James, but you've just always been called Jim.
It is, yeah, it is. I think it came from being called Big Jim when I was younger, and then everyone just called me Jim.
Yeah, he's Big Jim. I'm the midget here. These boys are massive. Jim dwarfs Stuart, which is saying something, and I'm still the midget.
How high are you, Jim? You're about 6'6", 6'7", aren't you?
Yeah, 6'6".
How high? You know when people are tall and they don't even say tall anymore. How tall are you? How high are you?
What's the wind like up there?
3 stories.
Hey, here he is.
Here
Good morning.
he is on his phone.
Sleeping Beauty.
No. I had a haircut yesterday, and I specifically
Fuck
told
off.
him...
Let's see.
No.
Let's see it. Let's see it. Get it out. Get it out.
I told him again, do not cut it too short this time. And then he said, yes, sure, no problem. Never problem. And then his phone started ringing, and he answered his phone and started cutting my hair like this. And then obviously he was paying attention on there. And the first thing he did then was take my fringe up and basically only like have an inch off it. He went like 2 inches down, cut it. I thought, oh no.
Come on, let's have a look.
We've got to have a look.
Can't wait a
can't
week
tease the
to see
audience.
it in next episode.
So look, the big reveal. Go on.
Come on. Ah!
Wow. Someone's got out of
That
prison.
is short, mate. It doesn't look so bad. It is short.
It does.
Right.
It does
It's not.
look bad. It looks terrible, mate.
D,
I'm so used
time
to
to get a
being...
new hairdresser, mate.
I don't think it looks as bad as you think. You know that dodgy haircut that you had about a year ago? That was as bad as that.
Well, this
Yeah,
is
it
from the
looks
same
just like
guy.
that.
Like, you just thought I'd know. Now, guys, I think the common consensus is I look better with longer hair. So I need somebody to respect that decision when I say it.
You should grow it then, man. You'll be alright.
Some of these barbers, you go to them and say, they always say like, "What do you want?" And you say, "What do you want?" And then they just cut what they want anyway. Right? Yeah, they just nod.
You should say when you sit in the
This
when you
is
sit
an
in the
annual
chair-
conversation. This is an annual
when you sit-
conversation with you.
when you sit in the chair, you should say, "If I end up getting a ruler and it measures less than 2 inches, I'm not paying you." Because then they'll do it right every time. Hit people where they hurt.
See, the kids, need the same hairdresser who knows how you like it, and then you can just be honest with them and say, look, little bit. Don't just go to some random? Do you go to the same place every time, or do you just pull up where
Yeah,
you can?
same place. And most of the time, it's not too bad. But I've had two
How much
dodgy
do you,
haircuts from them.
Dorian? How much do you pay for a haircut? Because this is going to be the real answer.
You know, it's
£8.
no, it's not £8.
How
It's
much?
12.
Yeah, exactly. Mine's 32, and they never cut it too short. Yeah, they never cut it too short because you get what you pay for.
Do they comb it for you as well?
Yeah, they do. They put all that dust in it, and then get the old wide tooth comb in there. And
I bet you Jack upgrades so he gets when they're cutting his ear, they give him positive affirmations as they're doing it.
All right, guys, I'm taking back control of this now. We're going back into intro mode. But yeah, we're all here now. Gang's all here. And this episode, for all viewers watching, we're going to be going over. I've got one little topic that we're going to go through first. This is some interesting science news, and then we're going to go into Jim and go over Jim's properties and different projects he's working on, and then the conversation will fly from there. And we'll talk about a lot of property development, strategy, business today. So it should be an interesting one. Make sure you subscribe, share this episode. Big love. And to start with, just wanted to mention as well that Jim came with us on the ski trip. And I think possibly my favourite video from that ski trip, and I think Stu will agree with me as well, because he's the one that filmed this, is headbanging. That there was something special, mate. Jim was off it.
High on life, mate. That's your high on life. It was brilliant. To see.
Absolutely.
When you came in drunk to the chalet, and he walks into the chalet, and he's like, I think I've lost my phone, and everyone's just looking at him like, what's going on? And then some old guy comes to the door. Bless him, and he's like, whose car's that downstairs? Whose car's in the garage? And you're blocking me in. And then Stuart's like, oh no, not Stuart. Jim's like, oh shit, I'm not in a state to drive. That's my car.
Stuart was riding her up though, because Stuart was like, Jim, this guy wants you. He's out the front. He's not happy with you, Jim. He ain't happy with you.
And Jim's like, oh no,
The blood.
no.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
no.
he started going a bit of colour lost out of his face. He's like, what? What actually turned out is that Jim's gone down, reversed his car out, gets something out of his boot, and he's forgot to put the boot down and reverse his car back in. So he's in the middle of this car park. This old guy, bless him, is at the door going, someone's in the fucking way. And then Jim's gone to the door like all confused, like he's up for a fight. It was hilarious.
It was well funny. I had to move the car in the end. It was quite
It was
funny.
a
Got
tight car
chaperoned by
park.
Jim. It was a tight car park.
I
But
can
anyway,
just
yeah, car
imagine
park
Tim-
over.
Tim throwing, you think this is my fault? You think this is me? You think I did this?
It was. Oh, look at Jack in the corner. Look, Jack's in the corner there. He's like, oh, I missed out on the ski trip. I got that FOMO. I wish I came. Oh.
You were mentioned, Jack, almost every other day, mate.
Every
Almost
day.
other
We
day.
promoted you every day to all those
Thank you,
people.
boys,
We were
thank
like,
you, boys.
you missed
I
Jack.
did have FOMO, but needs must.
Needs must.
must.
Next year, next ski trip. But anyway, right. Just gonna start this episode with some mad science news. All right, you know me, boys. I love a bit of fucking tech, a bit of AI, a bit of crazy shit going on. And I've said for a long time, we're gonna be immortal. Like medical science is just going off a bell curve here. It's going crazy. And this has just landed, and I think it's just quite interesting. We're not gonna go too deep on it, but let's just start here. Yeah. So. Babies, we've got a potential demographic collapse on the corner, around the corner, as well as a population collapse. If people aren't aware of this, anyone out there who thinks the world is overpopulated, actually, it's looking like a huge decline, and it may be that humanity kind of goes out with a whimper rather than a bang as birth rates fall. Obviously, each preceding generation then has less and less people, and it sort of exponentially compounds until there's no one left. But now, technology on the edge. We're talking something that's a few years around the corner. So technology for lab-grown eggs or sperm on the brink of viability. UK fertility watchdog finds, and this is mad. Yeah. So mass producing eggs and sperm in a laboratory in order to have a baby with yourself or 3 other people in a multiplex parenting arrangement might sound like the plot of a dystopian novel, but these startling scenarios are under consideration by the UK's fertility watchdog. And essentially, so bolstered by Silicon Valley investment startup, scientists are making such rapid progress that lab-grown human eggs and sperm could be a reality within a decade. a meeting for the Human Fertilization and Embryology Authority Board, as if there's a board that's called that, but there is, last week. In vitro gametes, whatever that means, eggs or sperm that are created in a lab from genetically pre-programmed skin or stem cells are viewed as the holy grail of fertility research. The technology promises to remove age barriers to conception and could pave the way for same-sex couples to have biological children together. That's where I want to stop that there. Essentially, what it means is, obviously, women hit a menopause period and they can no longer produce eggs, and as they get older and older, they struggle to produce good fertile eggs. Now they can take skin cells, just bit your skin, and they can stick it in basically a test tubes, take the stem cells out, and grow eggs off of your DNA. And the same will happen with sperm. And I told my little brother this, yeah, and he said something interesting. He was like, "Aren't people going to start stealing like celebrities' skin or like royal family skin and start growing like test tube babies of like royal bloodlines and things like that?" And it's just like crazy shit that's happening. What do we think?
Everyone in Wales is going to jump on the M4 up to Henley on Thames.
I mean, one thing's for sure, Jim, you've joined the right episode. So, you know, what a topic to start us off with. But,
It is just crazy, isn't it?
Bloody hell. It is 6:30 in the morning, guys. You know what I mean? That's a lot to take in there, Roy. Why does that free reign?
I think.
Oh, mate.
I do think, as you say though, it's like they've been developing it for a little while. There's two things I would say on that. One is notable, isn't it, how the investments come from Silicon Valley and not a UK investment thing. You know, that's just typical. And then the second thing really is, I think, technology is 100% going that way, and they've got the capability to do it. And I'm sure there's been a test tube baby already. I'm sure there's already one that's around somewhere.
Mice.
But
in mice, yeah.
Is it just mice? Is it? Oh, right. I
mice,
thought it was an actual.
So I think this is twofold. You know, a lot of people grow up in this world, and the priority thing that they want to do is reproduce and have a child. And I think that this technology is like, if it is inevitable and it does happen, is amazing for the people that can't naturally do the process, and giving them an opportunity to have a child. And then I kind of feel it's just piggybacking on this potential absolute woke can of worms where anyone could be anything and do anything they want. And I'm quite traditional in that aspect, so I kind of like love it and hate it at the same time, in the sense that, where does it stop? You might have kids that have 15 parents in the future, and they're all, one's a loaf of bread and the other one's it just kind of loses the identification of like what we are as humans. And I've obviously grown up in a world where you just have parents, and that's as simple as it gets. But it's starting to
You certainly have two.
Yeah, it's starting to get a can of worms of wokeness of like, we'll just crop up a geo baby, and
because you start to get into the ethical side of it, don't you? Where you're going from pushing the boundaries of technology and science to ethically sort of almost being a puppet of creating life, which is, who's to say if that's right or wrong or what we should be doing?
What if necessity for more human beings is so important though that we need to start printing babies? And then even weirder, yeah. How about this? I think the world we're heading towards is where women want to work. Women are working more as of the last 70 to 100 years. Women are working more. There's busy marital status. Husband and the wife's off working, and we spoke about this last week on the episode, which is partly one of the reasons I wanted to bring it up on this one. I was like, okay, kind of tethers into the last episode, talking about family balance and all that shit. So you're gonna have husband and wife working, enjoying themselves, enjoying life. So if a woman then no longer needs to go through a sort of laborious period, because bear in mind, off the back of this fertility stuff, there's also incubators that are being created where you can effectively have the baby grow in an incubator. I imagine some kind of Fort Knox facility where you've got, XYZ baby on a shelf over here growing for 9 months and growing for 9 months and things like that. It sounds mental, but this is coming.
They have that already. When Hudson was born, he went into neonatal, and without saying too much, there was a kid that was born like 4 months into its cycle, and it's like tiny. This thing's like the size of a mug. Looking at it, and it's being totally looked after by incubation.
I think it's like 20 weeks in, a baby can live outside of the womb, which is like basically halfway. I mean, this is kind of like the next step, which is what of IVF. I feel like it should be couples should try and naturally do it. If they can't actually do it, they go into IVF. If they can't do it via IVF and they really want a child, they should be able to get
Well,
support from this type of
this is
system.
where Jim's point of an ethical line comes in. There'll be some kind of ethical threshold there. I don't think it's going to be law. I think it's going to be more people go, we tried for a baby and then we just had to grow it in a lab. But that's fine because it was 9 months of absolutely stress-free, headache-free time, and the baby's just born, and then it comes into life into your household.
Do you think this will open up sort of a almost like a not a designer baby, but where people are going to try and pick the DNA and their
Yeah,
own
they will.
variants and strains of, I want a blonde baby with.
Yeah, it'll be probably more like athleticism or intelligence. I would have thought.
Yeah. This is where
Yeah, but when
stem
you
cell
said
research is going.
right, when you said there's 3 parents, I mean, it's a long time since I was at school, but it used to be a capital D and a little d, right? So you'd have 4 different combinations
X
of
and Y
DNA strand. How the hell?
chromosomes, yeah.
So you're saying you can have the dominant gene of one person and the small d of someone else, or is it like a lottery where you just
They
put
can
balls
mix
in a pot and it
genes.
just pulls
They'll
out?
be able to
You don't know
mix
who the dad
genes.
is.
Yeah, so stem cell research is getting to a point where you can just mix genes and pick and choose strands of DNA and attributes from what parent 1 and parent 2. But this is going to get weird because if I go to a Harry Styles concert and he throws me his headband and I got some fucking skin on there, like I know you're gonna have to go to a facility for now. But as this stuff democratizes,
I
I'm gonna
love it
stick
that
Harry
you could have
Styles.
said anything in the world, but you've pictured yourself at a Harry Styles concert.
Yeah,
I think
man.
honestly
Of
be
course.
worried, mate.
Of course.
I've
Yeah, but
interestingly, you know what I found out the other day, which is kind of like very on topic, but it was kind of like because when you don't think about something and then you think about it, like it's like when I did jury service, and I never really thought about the justice system in the UK, and then I had to think about it, and you think about it more and more, and then really get into something. But this is so my in-laws did a DNA test each because basically apparently my mother-in-law came from Europe and they're obviously like West Coast America. So she wanted to find out where she was from and vice versa for my father-in-law. And they paid for my wife and my wife's brother to do a DNA test. And I was like, well, why do they need it? Surely they're just the same as the parents, but diluted by half each. And it's not actually that way. The DNA that's passed down isn't fairly distributed. It could be really distributed in some ways and in others, and actually carry very little DNA of one parent to another. And it's just kind of like that. You were saying that they might choose specific DNAs from the father or the mother specifically to cater for what they need, if that makes sense. Which I find, and I only said about
Can we call that a throwback? It's like I just seen it before where there was obviously a husband and a wife having a child and the baby come out a different skin color. And they were like, that's
Well, yeah, you
that's a
can have.
throwback.
I'm pretty sure you can have dormant genes that run down like a bloodline, and sometimes they're not necessarily activated in some babies, and then later on they can be activated. Which is why you can take attributes from a grandpa rather than like a father and things like that. But anyway, I don't. We're going to talk about more property and business this episode. It's just thought that'd be an interesting one to start with for our listeners. Look at where the world's going.
I'll just mention very briefly. My mate started a biotech business last year, and I've invested a small bit with her and sort of keeping an eye on with him on a monthly basis. And the whole world, so he does PCR testing essentially for testing for specific genes in DNA. And some of the stuff he's doing is absolutely crazy. And when you look at the science of how far we can actually go, it's just crazy, mind blowing.
It's gonna be crazy, man. People are genuinely gonna choose to grow babies in an Amazon fucking warehouse, have them delivered once they're born, and that's the future we're heading
Do you know
towards.
what we should do? You know what we should do? I reckon get these Silicon Valley boys. Basically, I've got an idea. Like those little mosquitoes that get caught in tree sap, cut them open, get the DNA out of the little fly that's got dinosaur DNA in it, and just build a dinosaur. Let's stop fucking around with
Let's get a
babies.
fucking T-Rex.
We want a T-Rex running around. Let's make it a bit more
yes.
exciting.
Dinosaur Island. Let's fucking go. It's a good movie
Yeah.
on that, by the way, if you've not seen it.
Yeah, I mean, while you're at Harry Styles' gig, I'll be in a lab creating the next Death Door or whatever you call them.
I can't wait to nick Harry Styles' babies. It's going to be nuts. Anyway, all right, into property. A nice little start to the episode. So we've got Jimbo with us, big man Jimbo. So we're going to do a little intro with you, Jim. So Jim, for everyone out there, runs a development company called Crossover Property. Jim, just give us a 101, quick 60-second elevator pitch on exactly what it is you do, where you're from, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started Crossover Property about 7-8 years ago now, based in Nottingham, covering most of the East Midlands. Primarily, we're a development and investment company, developing commercial to residential conversions. We've got about 15 million sort of in build at the minute, a few more schemes in the pipeline going to planning. I'd say we've done a little bit of new build, but mostly commercial conversions, just because our values in the area. And I've also got a small construction consultancy business doing project management and quantity surveying as well.
Nice. What's the staff count look like? Turnover look like? Things like units.
So yeah, we've got five full-time staff. I think we've got close to 50 odd units in build or in the pipeline at the minute. I think for us, it's biggest scheme we've got is 19 units, potentially going up to 21. And the smallest one we've just finished was our 5 bungalows, but they were quite high value. So
nice. I just want to say as well, like when you sent me your stuff last night to prepare, I didn't realize how nice these bungalows were before, because I hadn't actually seen proper photos of them finished or CGIs until you sent that over, and they look class, mate. So we'll get into those. So first project, we'll run through some projects first, just to give the audience some context and for us to maybe have some points of conversation. So for everyone listening, this will be a slightly visual part of the podcast, but I'll try and describe as we're going along as well. So first project we're going to talk about is a bank job you're doing on a high street where you're converting effectively commercial and what looks like upper offices into 12 flats, retaining the ground floor commercial and a Greggs. Do you want to just give us
This will be Dorian's favourite one with the Greggs on the ground floor.
You'll have a fucking Greggs in Wales. Give us a lowdown on this one, mate. Give us a lowdown. Where are you at with it? How's it gone?
yeah, absolutely. So we basically we purchased this. I think it was in July last year. So we've got 2 other sites just literally down the road. So we know the area very, very well. And for us, it works perfect as a commercial conversion. So we basically identified it that it's an interesting one. So it's been sold for I think 1.2 million originally. Basically with Barclays on a lease still, an office occupier on a lease, and Greggs on a lease. And I knew the agent quite well. I said, "Oh, what's the actual score?" Because Barclays had moved out of the commercial unit. So I was like, "Well, they're not going to stay and not going to renew the lease." So anyway, long story short, after a lot of negotiation, we got the purchase price from like 1.3 down to 550, because it comes down to finding out why the vendors' expectations of where they are and what this, that, and the other is. So they knew they had around a 300 grand bill as a lease surrender and dilapidations from Barclays that they were due back. So in their head, they're thinking, well, they're going to get that, or they sell it at 1.3 or 1.2, and then it's up to the vendor. And I said, well, I don't want to be dealing with that because it's too complicated. So I basically agreed with them to buy it at 550 with a 6-month delayed completion, and then they sort of the delapse and the lease. So effectively, they got 550 from me, and they got like another 300 grand from Barclays.
Nice.
But the guy lost it. I think he brought it 10 years ago for 1.3 million because Barclays were in there a 10-year lease and they had Greggs in there, and he just thought that's a good investment. But in reality, it's now lost money because he's lost the tenants, which is not ideal.
What was the upper floors?
So they were offices. So the first floor was Barclays' office, and along with that, so they had the ground floor, the first floor, and then there was a separate office on the top floor, which was like I think like a stationery company.
Exactly the same situation as mine, Jim. As you know, the Barclays deal was like, I think Barclays strategized 15 years ago and went, right, let's sell off all our stock, do a sell and lease back, knowing this problem was going to come down the road. And was it just a husband and wife sort of pension pot, was it? Or was it a company?
It was London investor who literally just his pension pot. Yeah. And, and the thing is, he's lost all the income. It just becomes hassle to him. So he wanted out.
Empty rates and stuff.
Yeah, but it's interesting. It's the first PD scheme I've actually ever done. All our other sites we've had to take through full planning. So for us, it was a blessing. 8 weeks later, we had planning on it. It was great.
The upper floors to convert those. Any issues, or is it pretty straightforward? Office to resi.
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, as Stu will know, these buildings are built solid. Concrete floors, and they're not going anywhere. I think one of the biggest we've got really good services coming into the building. No structural issues on it at all. I think the biggest cost and faff is replacing all the windows or putting secondary glazing in, because there's a lot of windows on there on the front and then also the back.
It's not listed, is it?
It's not, but it's a conservation area. This pretty concrete build. It looks. I must admit, it looks worse on a photo, which is why
I thought he was joking.
Well, I mean, that's why I wouldn't go down secondary glazing route unless it's a building. I'd always whack out new windows in there.
Yeah, I think we're going to replace. We got to do it like for like. So I think we're just going to put brand
Jack,
new.
have you been to Mansfield, mate?
No,
Like Henley.
mate, I don't go anywhere north of Oxford. That's north enough for me.
Gets a nosebleed.
Well, to give you an idea, we I was chatting to another investor in the area. He said we saw someone when we were speaking today who literally was shooting up in the marketplace just outside last week. So, well, not last week, a couple of weeks ago.
How many units you getting, Jim? Oh, 12 units.
Yeah, 12 flats. We've got Greg's as the commercial tenant, and then we've got another commercial unit on the left-hand side, which is bigger. So we've got a couple of interesting coffee shops wanting to take that.
And retention is the strategy.
Did you get the ones on the ground floor with the courtyards as well?
Yes, we did, yeah. Yeah, because I was worried about the light on them, but we did get them.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Are you retaining this one at the exit?
Yeah, so yes and no. I think what we're going to do, so my investor on it is very flexible with me, which is good. And I think what's looking likely in a minute is we're going to do a bit of a hold it for a few years and then look at selling in 3 to 5 years. I think it's just such a good asset that we potentially can get the 12 flats on a lease as well with a support living provider. And if we've got that, got a nice coffee shop in, and then got Greg's on a lease, it's just a low hassle, building that's just going to rent forever. So I think the idea is to keep it. Yeah.
Nice, mate. All right. Next project then. Let's have a little look at what else you got going on. So these are these bungalows. So Spring Meadows, 5 new build bungalows, practical completion a couple of weeks ago. And let's just go through some of these photos, because I didn't realize we've talked about these bungalows before at all our different meetings and things like that. And they're pretty bougie, mate. Like, they've got solar on the roof. I'm guessing they've hit high EPC standard. Nice space, good sizes. There's the entrance foyer. So again, we're visual for all podcast listeners. We are visual at the moment with some photos. You got this lovely sort of open plan living room with a sort of high pitched ceiling. We've opened it up there. Fucking lovely, mate. I know these are CGIs, obviously. Are they CGIs or the furniture CGI? Because I know you had some before and after.
It's just the furniture CGIs on this. Some of these photos are pre-edited as well. Because I've noticed we've got an old waste tub in the photo, which shouldn't have been in there. But yeah,
it's all right, mate. It's all right. They got a little bedroom, decent sized bedroom, bathroom finish, and then a little floor plan as well for anyone. So these are quite big bungalows as well. I mean, you got a 3-bedder here with 2 bathrooms and a nice big open plan kitchen lounge. So, and there's 5 of them, right? All the same size.
All the same size. They're 109 square meters. GIA. All 5 are the same, apart from plot 5's got a slightly bigger garden, and then plot 1 hasn't got a garage. But apart from that, they're all exactly the same. I think 2 of them are left-handed and 3 of them are right-handed, just because of the way the drives were. But yeah, they're a decent size, and definitely they're not a cheap bungalow. They're more, they're a higher end one in a nice area.
Give us the high level here. So, thoughts going into this site. Why did you choose to take on some bungalows and do a flip? Planning, the build phase. What do you reckon you're selling for? Where are you at with the selling right now? Give us that sort of stuff, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. So we first saw this site for an agent years ago, and it's one of those ones that sort of pops up on your radar. And it was they're looking for 1.5 million at the time. And I looked at it, I was like, yeah, it's just miles off. Anyway, the agent took off the market, and I kind of didn't think anything more of it for 6 months or so. And then I saw it on Facebook, of all the things. There was a lady saying, "Oh, we've got this development site," and I thought, "Oh, it's another saucer." But they dropped the price down to 1.25 million. So anyway, I messaged her and said, "Oh, give me some details, blah, blah, blah." And it turned out she was messaging me. She said, why don't you come over on the weekend? I was like, "All right." I said, "Oh, can you arrange that then with the vendor?" She said, No, I live at it. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And it just clicked that I was actually speaking to the vendor. So long story short, I went for a coffee with her on a Saturday morning around her house. And I think by Monday morning, we'd had a heads of terms agreed and got a deal agreed. So it was just as quick and as random as that. But I think she was fed up with agents. No one really understood. She was let down by a previous buyer, and no one really understood what her wants were. So the whole site was basically a kennels and a cattery business. Then they lived in a home on the end, which we own as well. And they wanted security of a sale, but time to sort of let their business, trickle down, because they're taking bookings 3 months in advance. So they need at least 3 months, another few months to kind of take everything down. So we basically agreed at 1 million on the dot, but we got 6 months delay completion. So we exchanged with 10 grand. We paid them another 93 months later, and then we got another 3 months delay completion. So already had planning on it, actually. But the plans, I'm sure most people know, but most people selling stuff with planning, generally the planning is not best optimized, because they just want to rush a planning application in just to sort of try and increase the value. We basically got revised planning in through a section 73 variation of condition. And we changed the internal layouts of it. So we basically created a 4th bedroom study. I think we added the garages, because the garages were never on there, and just did a few little tweaks just to really improve the layouts. So we did quite minimum planning, but
Did you assess that those changes there? I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Did you those changes you made, were they like value engineering? You knew you get more on the back end for them if you added a garage, if you added that extra room, or was that sort of an intuitive assumption?
It was a bit of both. It was a bit of, once we sort of preliminarily agreed the deal, it was like, right, well, what do I need to do and what can I improve on it? And because we had the 6 months, I thought, well, going back to planning is not really an issue because we've got the time. And I think a little bit was feedback from agents. I spoke to agents, say what to buy as one. The big thing was the garages. Now, every buyer we've had come to it is like, oh, it's, glad we've got a garage. And plot 1 hasn't got one. And everyone says, oh, we don't want that. It's not got a garage. So if we didn't have those, it would put off probably 9% of buyers just based on feedback I'm currently getting. So it's little things like that could have stung us a little bit if we didn't do it.
I was going to say, Jim, if I was building the exact same site, like in 3 weeks' time we were starting, what's the one bit of advice you'd give to a developer about take this sort of size of scheme on?
Oh, take the size of scheme on, or the type.
If I was taking a site in a month's time, I was starting 5 bungalows. If you just about to start this journey, what would be the one bit of advice you would give to a developer?
That's a good question. I'd say, based on what I'm currently experiencing, get your marketing right and get the finish right for the market, and try and start working with an agent sooner rather than later. Because if you can go into it and get a couple of early reservations and kind of de-risk it, because you don't want to be stuck with stuff on the market that's just not selling, or so I think understand who you're actually selling to and try and start marketing early if you're planning to sell on the open market. The build phase, we had challenges which I can dig into, but overall that's something we can deal with and we can crack on with. It's the sales side that we have limited control over.
And what's the sales looking like right now?
So we've sold plot 5, they're completed. We sold that for 565,000.
Nice.
Which is, for our areas is very high. We had another plot reserved last year, but they unfortunately pulled out because one of the vendors' mother's ill and they had to, quit the job and they can't afford the mortgage. So unfortunately, we've had to keep their reservation fee and they pulled out. So we since launched it on the market a couple of weeks ago properly. We've had a few viewings, but no sort of nibbles or bites yet. So we're kind of, now we're finished. I'm in the mode of I just want to get them sold, but also trying to retain the price value we've got. But it's like you get, as entrepreneurs, you just want to get a little bit frustrated with time and impatient. And it's like, I just want to get them sold, move on, get some cash out and move on. But
have you just gone with one agent, or are you doing 2?
Just one agent, and yeah.
We pretty much always use 2. So 2, winner takes all. They fight over it.
Well, that's kind of where, we gave it to one agent originally to sort of deal with like pre-marketing and early reservations. And on plot 5, we were a bidding war with that, in April, May last year. So that was great.
Yeah, I have interest. Why is plot 5 got multiple people interested and the others haven't?
It's because it's the end of the cul-de-sac and it's got a slightly bigger garden. It's just a bit more private, and you can't see it on this, but it's at the other end of the road. And I think everyone just really liked that one. But, unfortunately, there's only one of those, which is why we've got 3 of them.
It's interesting, mate. It's an interesting scheme because usually you see these bungalows and they're like really bland and basic and they're sold kind of en masse, aren't they? But you've gone for kind of like exec bungalows. I'm not going to say, they are exec, but they are like upper end bungalows, aren't they? So you're looking for kind of more of a niche clientele rather than just retirees. You're looking for, people who've got some money in retirement, right?
Yeah, so we had a bit of a quirky funding structure on this one. So we've got a development lender on a first charge basis, who paid for all the build and a proportion towards the purchase. We've then had a second charge mezz lender on it as well, just to top up sort of some more to the day one. And then we've had a mix of equity from crowdfunding. So I think we raised about £500,000 through crowdfunding. Admittedly, that was mostly my investors through a platform for compliance reasons. But we've kind of got 3 different funding sources and then a bit of my own cash as well. So it's been unusual, but it's been a good experience going through the crowdfunding process.
Does that mean you've kind of de-risked your holding costs at this point though? Are you carrying much kind of like expensive senior against this, or can you hold it for that bit longer because of the way you funded it?
Yeah, so we can hold it for a little bit. But the good thing is, completing on one of the plots early, we've paid back. The bank's got £500,000 back straight away. So that releases a lot of pressure. And we're actually just going through a development exit bridge at the minute. So the idea, they'll buy out the first and second charge lenders, and then we'll basically get them down to a point after a couple more are sold where there'll be no sort of debt on the property left, and there'll just be my equity and the crowdfund's equity, which takes a bit of the pressure off then.
Nice. Nice, mate. Good scheme. All right, we'll go on to the next one, and then we'll come back around and do some more developer-specific questions.
I was just going to say as well, and talk about the eco-efficiency. This is the first scheme we've done as well, which has got full EPCAs on it.
Oh, nice.
Well done.
And it's fully electric. No gas, fully electric. So
I love the slate and red brick. Looks really good, Jim. The slate red brick, the way it's tied together, looks really nice.
Thank you. We've used it. It's Hampton Rural Blend bricks. We've used them before actually, and I really like them because it's just a little bit rustic, a little bit different, and not bland.
Can you give Jim? Can you give a rough difference in cost per unit of if you were to hit EPC-C compared to the A rating? Do you know roughly what that extra sort of provision for a higher EPC costs you?
I think I can tell you what getting from an A to a B was, because that's quite clear cut for us, and that's
B
probably
to an A, you mean?
Yeah. So V to an A was probably about 3 or 4 grand, and we did that by just topping up. We use a specific hot water cylinder with a heat pump built in it, which increases your saps up a little bit, and we put a bit more solar on as well. So I'd say to us it was probably 3 or 4 grand. Now, if we put no solar on, which was saved, and no heat pump, that probably dropped us down to a C, and that's probably about 10 grand saving per plot.
Oh, not massive then, is it? Not
it's
massive.
Not, no. The big thing that got us to an A on this was the air tests. So we had really good air tests results on this.
Go on, what was the number?
You're going to test me now. I'm going to say it began with 4.
Nice. I always find that the air tests are like the ultimate test of how good a builder is, because it kind of quantifies all of their tying in of the building into one test.
Yes.
Nice.
All the leakage, right, for the listeners.
Yeah, sub 5's really good.
Wait until you get your silicon done, get all your pipes are done. Yeah, we got our top floor being done next week, so I will reveal the number of ours.
Harder to achieve in conversions.
It is
very hard.
I mean, even on this on air test. So we had issues with the builder. Basically, we had to kick them offside towards the end, and our first air test was like a 6 point something on one of the bungalows. So what they let us do is they actually identified where the leaks were happening, so we had to go and rectify them. It was like things like a massive hole in the back of the toilet, the wall. So that's got to be sorted out. But yeah, you're exactly right, Jack. Your air test will tell you how good a builder the builder is.
What problems did you have, Jim? Do you want to share with your builders issues, or what sort of you had to deal with, or don't feel like you have to? But
no. I suppose it's kind of an interesting point for those doing these kind of things and using main contractors. I think, long story short, we started seeing a slowdown against program and things that weren't happening. Which sort of raises your alarm bell straight away. And so, long story short, we found out the builder had some personal issues going on, and we realised quite quickly that he'd ran out of money. He sort of had the cream on it through the build. It's all the finishing little niggly bits, and I think emotions start raising and resentment happens a bit as well. So we were just very cautious of what we were paying him on his valuation, but it's kind of chicken and egg, because unless he's got money to build it, he can't then progress it. It's getting behind schedule, and we've got LADs on the contract, so he's liquidated his ascertained damages to the tune of £2.5 grand a week. So if every week he was delayed, it's £2.5 grand costing him on the contract. And we're standing there going, well, you need to get your arse in gear and kind of get on with it, because it's costing you money. He's like, well, I can't, I've got no money. So it's like, where do you go with it? So we kept trying to find solutions, give him chances. We brought our own contractors in, and it got to the point where we gave him a final chance, and he just didn't hit it. We had to terminate his contract, unfortunately.
And why did he run out of money? Was he running too many projects? How big a builder was he, or why did you choose him to work with?
This was one of his bigger schemes, definitely. So we knew that going into it with our eyes kind of wide open, that it was always a bit of a risk, which is why things like, so we were in full control of the warranty, full control of building control, full control of, the roadways and utilities. So if we had to take over, it was a bit easier. I think
that was really important. Sorry, just that's a really important point that Jim's made, because the first thing in my mind that came up then was I was thinking about all those things you just talked. If your builder starts failing, so it's good that you took control of the key things, and if you just underperform, you could just replace them basically.
Yeah, exactly right there. I mean, I think that comes from experience, because it's not the first time we had to take over from a contractor. So we did a bit of a hybrid approach where we deal with pretty much everything, all the technical aspects, but he is building the bungalows and doing the internals, especially finishing them. So we took a little bit of a hybrid approach on it, but I'm glad we did, because like Dee says, we've got full control over it. And things like getting electrical certificates, we had to go speak to electrician, get hold of those, get all the plumbing and heating commission sorted. So yeah, it's unfortunate.
It's almost part of your strategy now, Jim. So how you get 3 or 4 tenders, go with the cheaper one, and just know you're going to have to boot them off at some point and manage the last bit. I mean, it's a pretty good strategy, if you ask me.
Not at all. No. I mean, if I could wind the clocks back, I would have actually built all this ourselves. I just hired a full-time site manager and just got on with the building it, because in reality, we dealt with all the hard stuff. All the drainage, utilities, the roads. We dealt with all that. It was building the bungalows and the internal finishes and quality that's let down, and that should be the easy bit. It's new build.
Would you do it again, Jim? You're going to do some more bungalows?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I really like this scheme, because it's quite nice to whip them up. It's the only thing that makes me nervous is open market sales. That's what I struggle to get my head around sometimes, because if I had all my sites that rely on open market sales, I'm sitting here with all my cashing projects and nothing really coming back. It could be 6 months, could be a year, could be 18 months. So that's the only thing that worries me.
No, you've done well, mate. Fucking banging scheme. Well, make sure you keep us updated with the sales. I know we'll know anyway, but yeah, once they're all sold, mate, in and out the other side, and then you'll know if it's worth doing it again.
Jim, I've got a spreadsheet for you for open market sales. I'll send you after the call. Basically depicts like diminishing value and opportunity cost against the value of the unit, so you know how to price it, get it gone.
Price them down. Yeah.
If you're going to do open market sales, because that's the one out of everything you've said there, Jim. That's the one thing, unfortunately, where I feel for you, because you've done a good job. It's a good development. Yet the market they will only sell when the market's ready to sell, ready basically, and that's what I experienced, and that's what I got out of it, because my area, Wales, is just so sensitive. It's not like its own little bubble in a way. With some areas where the demand is quite strong. It's literally up and down, and I couldn't stand that storm. So, if you are going to do open market, one thing I would always look for now, which no doubt you do, is just to structure it. If you can somehow structure with equity investors where you're not putting your own capital in, and obviously you shouldn't have to now, really, with your experience, and you're also earning from the development as it progresses in a combination of management fees and also doing the build yourself and earning a contractor's profit, then yeah, your developer's profit is tied up for when it sells, but you can be a lot more patient, because you've already got money through the build, and now it's just waiting for the sale, which is tied in with equity investors. Obviously, deal's still got to work, but that would really be the only other way to de-risk it.
Yeah, I totally agree, Dee. I think we've got a limited amount of cash in this, but I think in other schemes, we get our construction fees throughout and project management fees, which kind of pays our overheads, and it's like the development profits, the bonus at the end. And I think this has been a bit of a tester. I've done flips in the past, but I've not had, and we're lucky we've sold one. We've got 4 left to sell. Most of the buyers are cash anyway, so hopefully if one comes along, they'll be completing pretty quick, and we're not going to get dragged out into long chains, and buyers are going to take forever. So yeah, we'll see. So,
Dorian, just on that though, just a bit play devil's advocate. Let's say you've got a scheme that costs significantly more to build than you anticipated, and you are the contractor and you are the developer. I think that's double the problem, because you can't win fees in the construction arm of it, because there might not be as much margin, or you've used up your contingency and the profit, and you're the one that owns the site.
Welcome to developing, Jack.
No, but my principal point is, you said the way to de-risk open market sales is to have the construction in-house, whereas I completely disagree.
One way. It's like in my
Yeah.
area. It's for my type of business and my type of strategy, it does de-risk it for us. Whereas, and we've talked about this before, your area and your strategy and your pricing points, it all is all different, which blends itself potentially, and the way that you secure and acquire sites as well, etc. You've managed to create a cocktail of an environment where you can actually still scale and do developments using main contractors and de-risk things that way, which is great. It was just not possible for my type of business. That was all. So I think the message to anybody out there, wherever you are across the country, is you've really got to understand your own environment, your own, and just figure out what works in your. Yeah, definitely.
And Jack, can I just push back on that slightly? Because I appreciate that if you've got the contracting and development side, your exposure's higher, i.e. you've got two kind of operational vehicles that may be exposed to an element of risk. But if you've got two cushions of margin, you've got that much more you can absorb. So is that not also giving you more security in that if there's an issue in the construction, well, that's fine if that goes to cost. And if it surpasses that, you've still got this cushion of margin in the development side and vice versa. Do you not think?
On that note, right? On that note, so with what Dee was saying, is that because we're the contractor developer, if we are hitting a bit of an issue where there's things we haven't priced for, we have the levers to sort of reduce some of the spec to save some money. Like I know Jim and I were talking about one of his other schemes where he could eliminate a lift that's going to save him 120 grand to offset a load of the extra costs that come up in other areas. So I love the fact that you've got the barriers. The only issue is the open market sales at the end. And for me, and I think what Jim's now doing and what he's done with Mansfield is he's eliminating the open market sale at the end as well. So if you can become the builder, manage the control of costs, make a DM fee, build it out, and then refinance and hold it, you can get paid for sites and hold them as well.
Yeah.
Which is what I focus on rather than relying on the open market.
Yeah, I think that's the other way to say it, Jack, isn't it? That ultimately you can kind of take that to one side and go, well, as long as you've built it in a way where you can refinance it at the same or sell it, then you've kind of de-risked it in any eventuality. Is that not
Yeah,
kind of fair
I'm
to say?
just obviously playing devil's advocate here. I think it's healthy to think, all of our listeners are, some listeners might already be contract developers. Some of them might be thinking about how they want to structure their business. And I think just sort of teasing out it's whatever works for you, right? I say lean into your skills. I mean, it'd be silly for Stuart to not run a contract developer business because he's obviously already got that resource in his loft fitting business, but a lot of people don't have that resource.
I think all of our schemes are slightly different in some way, shape, or form, either with the exit or the delivery method. So I like to think we de-risk it by not having everything in the same kind of basket. It's all slightly different pots, so everything else we're doing is pretty much guaranteed on the exit in some way, shape, or form, whereas this one isn't.
We actually don't know that one of the reasons why Jim's contractor may have gone at been struggling is because he may have actually lost money on the construction contract on it. Like from the Jack's point, which is important to say, because I've lost money as a contractor part of the development. It is important to recognize that it is risky. Like it provides in our business model, it's a necessity and it provides a competitive advantage and it's really helpful, blah, blah, blah. But also, if you don't do it properly, you will lose money. And that's when it would have been better for a main contractor to do it that may have not made the same mistakes, or they might have still made lost money, but it's them that's lost the money, not you. So I think
on that, D, you are right. So just to elaborate, so the contract on this, I know for a fact that he screwed up his pricing slightly, which works in my favor because we're in a contract.
Right.
It's like our plumbing and heating spec. We had a clear cut specification. It got appended to the contract, and it was black and white, and it was in there, 9 months ago. And he came around and said, "Oh, I've just had an extra bill for my plumbing. You need to pay it." I'm like, "Well, what's it for?" And it was because he'd somehow priced off an old plumbing specification. It wasn't the contracted one. So he got stung by that 15 grand that he was underpriced on. And then you add that up with other little incremental things that, he made a comment to me one day. He said, "Oh, I just ring my suppliers and just ask them to just deliver stuff." And I was like, "Do you not ever check prices with them or put orders in or negotiate?" He goes, "No, I just order it." And I was like, "Well, that's part of your problem. If you don't know what you're spending and don't have any tracking, you can soon fall foul." I mean, us guys with construction, D, you said in your company is your construction costs can just spiral if you need to be on it you've got so many costs and invoices and stuff you're spending flying around. If you're not on it, that can just.
But Jim, this is the issue, isn't it? Where you've taken effectively like a smaller contractor who's used to probably pricing a domestic job here or there, and he knows he can just bake in a margin off the back of a fag packet, and he'll make money on this one, maybe a little bit less on another one. Take him to a bigger dev site where there's suddenly a lot more variable moving parts, there's preliminary overheads, there's all these other things. Then it's like duck out of water, isn't it? It's just a different beast entirely.
A lot of when you're picking a contractor is that initial dance of how they manage themselves and how organized they are and where you can see potential problems arising. And that's that little dance of, meeting them on site or going to see one of their other builds is really, really important. Every minute you've got to be looking at, how tidy their van is, how they, communicate with people. Do they turn up on time and say that they're going to be there on time? I think all of these telltales are things that you really need to acknowledge.
I agree. I think with this particular one, he was very good up until like halfway in the project when we sort of started. So finish off the groundworks, doing brickworks, the roof, and all the kind of the shell kind of stuff and the structure. But once you get inside and all the fitting and having to organise a lot more trades, that's the difference between being a builder and being a main contractor, because you need to be on it. And that's when it became apparent that he wasn't quite as skilled in that area. But that was like 6 months into the contract. So
6 months in was when he realised he's underpriced. He's lost already the first fixed heating system. As soon as they start losing money, they start losing quality, and that's just what happens. It's like, well, I can't afford to pay for the brickie to point this stuff in, so I'll do it myself, or get my labourer to go in there and wash it off, and it just gets messier and messier.
Yeah. All right, let me move on to the next one, guys, because you've got another juicy looking project as well. So this is now, again, for the benefit of the viewers, we're looking at some photos. So mill project, 16 flats, 3 houses and 14 storage units. Now, Jim, help me here visually. Just show me. So you got top right of the corner of the image is the main sort of 16 flats, I'm assuming. Yeah, that's where all of them are.
Exactly, yeah. So this is an old mill we purchased. So yeah, top right is the old mill, and you've got the old chimney on the back of it. And to the left hand side of that, you've got what looks like a little 2-story house type thing. So that is called the boiler house, and that's going to be a 3-bed converted house in its own right. Opposite the mill, you've got like a little single-story long brick building, which is basically going to be those little storage units. So that's the old workers' cottages or workers' stables. And we're basically splitting those into little storage units to rent out to the flats, or maybe privately, but if planning asks, gets to the flats. And then on the left hand side, you've got 2 3-bed new build semi-detached houses. So it's a real mixed bag of a scheme, but it's got loads of character to it. It's by the River Trent, it's on the River Trent as well. So a lot of the flats have overlooking views over the river. So yeah, for us, it's kind of the most exciting and probably a bit of a flagship project for us.
Nice. Let me do a quick run through last images. So just a close up there of the 2 houses on the side. Appreciating these are CGIs, but as you've seen from the bungalows, Jim, you actually build to your CGIs, it would seem.
I do, yeah.
a lot of developers out there don't. There's the building itself.
Jim, do you do CGIs for planning, or is this for sale, or do you just get them done early doors?
Yeah, we did these specifically for sales. So I'll talk about our exit strategy on this in a sec. But yeah, we did this specifically for our sales, not for planning.
Nice.
You those houses, are they going to be 2.5 stories or just 2-story?
They are just 2-story.
Not value to go up in the loft?
We could.
Certainly order the attic trusses. If you decide not to go for planning, do it so when someone buys, you just go, look, oh, this is great, I can add the value, and then they'll sell.
If you get Stuart in, he'll put a loft in for it.
Yeah, 100%. But just put the attic trusses in, you'll pay another 500 quid, 600 quid, whatever per property.
Really good point. It's a good selling point.
I'd convert those.
I like to add my value. I'd convert them 100%. But some developers like to leave the value there for someone else to buy it off them and go, oh my God, I can add the extra bedroom. So and then you can tell the agent as well.
I'm trying to remember if they are 3-story or not, or 2.5 story. Sorry.
On a development we did, we took a 2.5 story and turned it back to a 2-story, just because when you do the exercise, it didn't, in our specific example, it did not add the value. It cost more to do a 2.5 story than it did to just keep the 2 and sell it as a 2.
But I think that's the benefit of giving it to the homeowner's choice, because they know that if they've got a growing family, that they could one day take the value that's in the loft.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that completely. That's just the basic. Yeah,
I mean, me and Stuart are in an area where you'd always get your money back doing it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
regardless.
your areas you
Exercise
would definitely.
that Jim can do.
All right, last bit on photos. A couple more photos here. So there's the main building, and then we've got. I love what you've done inside as well. So again, these are CGIs, but you've actually retained the timber, timber membranes throughout the whole thing, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got some lovely old beams. You've got the old trusses in the roof as well. So we're retaining those in the build, and then every floor's got columns holding these up, and every side of the mill and every floor's got a different type of column. So we're trying to retain those or feature them as much as possible as well.
Yeah, and really nice aesthetics as well. Are you going to actually build to these sort of kitchen specs and things like that?
Yeah, we are. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
quite
nice.
a light, fresh kind of Scandi vibe.
I was going to say Scandi, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool
we did look at going quite industrial and heavy, but after a lot of feedback discussions with the agents and kind of who's going to be taking it, it was just not going to suit it too well. The problem is now all your EPC stuff, you can't have exposed, building works, you can't have exposed brickwork, so it's like the whole industrial thing was we'll have it leaving the mill on the industrial side on the outside, on the inside, we'll have it kind of modern and light and fresh.
Yeah, light.
Nice.
Haven't seen
Really-
that building, mate. It's an absolute banger. I thought you was mad at the start. It's so big. You walk in like this is just goes on and on. But definitely going to come and see it the next month, mate. 6 weeks or so when you were in it.
Give us the high level, Jim. Again, it's similar with the bungalows. How you found it, planning, all that fun stuff. Where you're at now. Go on.
Yeah, absolutely. So as with all these things, it takes a while to negotiate. So I think we first viewed this in where we're now 2020. So I purchased it last year. So I think we first viewed it in 2022 on the market with an agent. I think we offered on it and basically said, no, we want a higher offer. We'll wait. So long story short, we were following up every quarter, roughly every quarter. And then I think a year later, the guy was like, oh, come down to start again. We'll have another look. And we gave him two offers. One was just like, your price, our terms. The other was our price, your terms. And we kept having that badger him. And I think eventually he got to the point where he's like, you guys really want this, don't you? Like, yeah, we're serious buyers and developers. We want it. So we agreed, I think 675 for it, 675,000, which is a lot of building for that amount of money. We got a 6-month delayed completion on it again, just to allow us time to revise planning. So I had planning permission previously for 14 units, not 16, and 2 new builds. So we went back in for 20 units, which got poo-pooed by the council for overdevelopment and not enough parking. Even though we've got 44 parking spaces, it wasn't enough.
Wow.
So we basically agreed on 16. We are going back into planning for 2 more apartments because we basically got like the ground floor has got 2 big empty spaces called commercial space, which we can use as co-working space, offices, but we're trying to get 2 more apartments in there basically. So we completed on this back end of spring last year. Took a few months in planning and we officially started site 1st of September last year.
How long did you say planning was? A few months?
I know. Yeah, well, we kind of submitted planning early on. I think we got planning approved 4 months later, but because it already had planning, it was kind of there or thereabouts, and they already knew. Again, this came back to the same thing on my bungalows where it had planning, but we just knew the scheme was terrible. So like you had 4-bed apartments in there that were like 130 square meters. I was like, it just doesn't suit the market.
Yeah.
So
Then Jim, can you because I've viewed a lot of mill buildings up this way, particularly if, for anyone listening as well, if you're around the sort of Halifax, Wakefield sort of areas, there are so many mill buildings on the market. It's very, very difficult to make them stack. Sometimes it's just floor level issue, like you just can't get the ceiling height. You're banging up floor levels, things like that. Any abnormalities, any big issues that you came across with this site? I know you had a weird flooding issue and a tunnel or something, wasn't there, that you had to deal with?
yeah, not sure about the tunnel. But
Was there not a tunnel? Well, there's something underground, wasn't there? Was there
Oh,
something
there was a weird hidden void in it. Oh no, well, I've got a site with caves in it.
Caves, that was it.
This isn't
Oh, that a
it.
different site? Oh, okay, fair,
Yeah.
fair. I've got a site with caves in it.
Yeah, I like the easy stuff. So yeah, I mean, this wasn't a flood zone 3 and 2. So the river next door does flood, but it floods all over the other side of the building, which is great. So we've had to do some flood mitigation by raising the floors up slightly. I think you're right with the mill. We've seen a few mill buildings, and there's a couple of things that kind of spring to mind. Is what is the structure of the building like? Is it in good condition? Do you need to start rebuilding it? Are the floors and the joists and the columns all in good condition? Can they handle the load? And then you've got the head heights as well. So I was worried about the head heights because, me being me, I can just about skim some of the joists. They're 2 meters tall. But in reality, now we started getting the shell in and get all the walls up, the plasterboard in. It's actually quite spacious and you're not compromised too much on head height. So we made it work. I think, and that's kind of the only thing that stung us a little bit was the amount of brickwork repairs we were doing, which we didn't quite realize at the time. So had an old asbestos roof on it, which we've removed. We've accounted for that. We've accounted for the whole new roof structure and the whole new roof covering. But what we didn't account for was brickwork repairs. So all the corbels, like the actual wall plate, is basically disintegrated. It's just like mush. So we've had to basically rebuild all of that around the perimeter.
How far do you take that back down course-wise? Have you got, so does it get to a point where the course brickwork is fine?
Yeah. I think we took it down 2 or 3 courses in places.
Yeah.
It's nothing major. We've had to.
Do you have to do much repointing, Jim?
Yes, yeah, we've been doing localized repointing throughout the whole place. It's kind of one of those, how far do you go with it and how much do you spend on making it look like 100%? I mean, we definitely overspend in our contingency on brickwork, definitely.
You also did something quirky with your windows, didn't you, Jim? So you had to put in, I'm guessing is it a listed building?
It's a non-designated heritage asset in a conservation area, which basically means we've had to do archaeological reports, stage 1 and 2, and we'll have to do a stage 3 one, which basically means we have to record the history of the building and then record what we're doing to it. And I think what basically means is they will list it once we're finished.
And the windows, you had to get obviously upgraded windows and all that fun stuff, and you got them from Lithuania, wasn't it?
Yeah, I did. So with the windows, they had to be a timber window with a sash style window with mullion bars to kind of match the existing building. And there's 110 windows, so as you can imagine, it's a fair chunk of money. So we were looking at UK suppliers for it, both for double and triple glazing, and basically we were getting quotes like 120, 150 grand, on it, which was quite chunky. So I started looking at Polish suppliers from Germany, Lithuania, chose a couple of ones that I liked or was coming out of the best prices. I flew out to Lithuania to go to 2 factories and just to kind of inspect them, see things with my own eyes. We chose a supplier in Lithuania and we got the price to, I think, 80,000 euros. So we made a massive saving on windows, and they're all triple glazed as well, which helps with our taps.
And they fitted fine, didn't they? There wasn't any issues with them fitting and sizing, which can be the issue, can't it, sometimes?
Honestly, yeah. Well, what we did is we actually got a window surveyor out who that is his job to survey it. So we basically paid him for 2 days to come and measure every single opening, do us a full window survey report. So everything was on his liability and his measurements, not us. And he's worked with that company before, so it's kind of like pass the buck over to him. And if anything doesn't fit, it's not our fault. But the quality of them is insane. Like, all of our guys are saying, where the hell did you get these from? Like, we've never seen anything so nice. And
So
I'm
would you say for any future jobs now where you've got to replace a lot of windows, albeit triple, double, UPVC, timber, whatever they are, would you go back to this supplier every time?
I would, yeah. Obviously, there's a bit of economies of scale with it, of having enough volume to warrant ordering it from abroad.
Yeah.
Now, what I would say is physically seeing how they pack stuff. So they'll basically put 4 to 5 windows on a pallet, and then they've got a truck that comes every week to the UK. So they can literally just order 4 or 5 windows, stick on a pallet on the truck that's coming to the UK anyway. So the shipping costs aren't astronomical.
Jim, do they give you a certificate? Are they BBA approved or C or whatever the CERTAS?
C marked, and they all meet UK building regs standards.
Right, nice.
They all got PAS 24 as well.
Yeah, perfect security.
Yeah, because that was one of my big worries.
Just Stuart being all serious, and he's got Hudson there, just tipping out a bottle.
Mate, it's a Monday morning, nursery, Amelie's off. I've just got to look after him. So if he starts crying, I'll mute off. But it seems to be
No
all right,
worries,
man.
mate. No worries. And the
Mine is shouting in the background. That's why I'm on mute.
and the
Got
Jim,
you in here, Ryan. Darren.
Jim, the elevators. So you started this scheme 4 stories, right? And just for everyone listening as well, this is my understanding. If you're 4 stories and you're not, a public body or a public building, you don't need to provide an elevator. Anything above regulatory standards require you to put an elevator in. I'm right in saying that, right? That is the regs, isn't it?
I don't know if there's a regs for it necessarily. I could be wrong. It could be the use of the building, but
okay.
I mean, ours is 4-story, right? And the original planning had lifts in it. So when we revised all the planning and the drawings, we put the lifts back in. And this is the power of your network, right? So it wasn't until I went to see Stu in his site, there were also 4-story conversions, and you were putting lifts in, Stu. I was like, well, why not? He said, well, you don't really need it. I was like, well, actually, it's a good point. And we had to have 2 different lift shafts in because we've got 2 sides of the building. And some of the quotes we're getting through are just crazy. So in the end, we basically spoke to the agent selling them. So do we actually really need these things in? And long story short is no. So we took them out. We've saved well over 100 grand from not doing new lift shafts and new lifts.
So interestingly, we have a couple of PD schemes, like office buildings, and we've found that upper units in the areas that we're selling in. So our typical buyers, first-time buyers, investment buyers buying for an income, and then downsizers. That's like a huge thing. With like 50% of everything we sell goes to downsizers. And the problem with the units on the 2nd and 3rd floor is they can't get up and down there as from a mobility perspective as easily. So we're actually choosing to put lifts in so that the top floor flat could be bought by a downsizer as well. So it's a sort of sentiment earlier of like knowing what your market is and where you're doing it, because we pay extra to deliver that, because then those units sell as quickly as ground floor access ones.
Jack, the downsizers profile of them, are they typically retirees, old elderly people, or are they also? Okay, yeah,
they're brilliant buyers, because in the areas that we live in, they're selling a £1.5 million home and buying a 3, 4, 5. Well, some of our flats are really expensive, like 800k, but they're buying like a nice flat, but they don't have a mortgage. They just come straight in. They're cash buyers, and they're just sort of downsizing to make their life a little bit more straightforward.
I think, yeah. I mean, for us and our buyers, they are literally investment buyers, looking to rent them out. And I think it is very much young market. You know, we're selling them for 200 grand, 220 grand a flat, so we're not nowhere near those kind of values.
Yeah,
but
it's the importance of knowing your end user, though, isn't it? You know, because you take a gamble on that infrastructure if you don't actually know the end user. So, yeah, interesting, mate. Any other nuggets for this one? Any other nuggets from that scheme?
Yeah, I think we had to deal quite a lot with. I mean, the site's quite complicated in terms of building it and phasing it and doing everything else. So we're actually building this one in-house with our own site manager, our own construction team. So all the work's packaged up, and we did that basically to try and de-risk it a little bit and have full control over it. And so far, it's working really well. Site's flying, quality's great, and we've got a really good site manager. And yeah, I mean, when we started it, we had to do access licenses ×3 on the back of the building, because it's basically on the back is right up against other people's gardens. And we had to take one of those chimneys down, and it was literally like get a cherry picker, put some scaffold on the back to protect it, and take it down like hand by hand. So that was a bit new. I know a bit of one of those, like, how much is it going to cost me to take a chimney down? You can have a stab at it, and you don't quite know until you've done it. So yeah.
How much did it cost you?
I can't remember. A bit.
20 grand, 10 grand.
Yeah, I'd say 10 to 20. It was actually under budget. I think we got a bit cautious of trying to like put a lot of money in for just in case.
Yeah,
but it was cheaper than we thought.
Banging, mate. When's the end date on this one? Practical completion.
So practical completion at the minute was planned for December, but we might be bringing it forward to about October time because of how far ahead we are. Like the new builds, we've had all the foundations poured. Inside, we've got all the walls and plasterboard going up. We've got M&E starting next week, so it's motoring pretty well.
Sorry, mate. Are you planning this one in-house? Are you doing this one in-house, or is this?
Yeah,
but
in-house.
Sorry, yeah, nice.
What's the contract value of it?
It's 2.4 million bill value.
Nice, mate.
Yeah, I mean, this is really similar to our Maltings building.
Yeah,
not the old mill because we've converted a mill building, and that's actually less similar to this than our Maltings building, which is 21 flats, 2 new build houses. But it's like an old heritagey type. Well, it used to be a malting house. So, but yeah,
it is very similar, John. I mean, I've seen your old, and this actually used to be an old maltings as well. We found out, yeah, because of this archaeological report, we found out like all the history of the building. So it used to be an old maltings, a mill, a mushroom packing factory, a tannery and leatherworking place.
Not that type of mushroom, Ryan.
No. No. And the other thing is in World War II, they made all the parachutes for the UK's army.
Oh, no way. That's
cool. And they shipped them down the River Trent.
We've got the last 20 minutes here. I think the next thing to do is to talk about the future for yourself, Jim, of Crossover Properties. So you've got multiple kinds of sites. You know, it's interesting. You've got I think maybe you and Jack are sort of similar in a way, where you have sort of different like strategies and types of developments going on. So you've got the 5 new build bungalows that you're selling. You've got the commercial ground floor and uppers in the high street that you might be retaining, might be getting the leases on them, maybe buy and sell them. You've got the mill building, difficult type of property. You've done HMOs before. You've done some other dance club sort of stuff. Now you've got all this kind of experience.
And nightclubs.
Nightclubs, that's it.
Dance clubs. I remember back in my day, we used to go to the dance club,
The disco hall.
taste Skittles, and then go to the.
But now you've got all this experience of different types of projects. Is there any sense in you going, okay, I actually want to kind of niche down a little bit and maybe go towards any sort of specific strategy, or are you kind of geographically bound and you're looking for those opportunities within a certain radius? What's the plan going forwards?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. I think I'm because I do get asked this. It's which way do you go? Do you try and keep like a bit of a broad net and that side, or really niche down and have a very specific strategy? And I think for me, I'm more of an opportunistic person where I'll look at the opportunities rather than necessarily going, I will only do new build, or I'll only do sites in this area, because I think it limits us on what's actually available in the market. So for us, it's kind of looking at what opportunities there are within probably an hour radius of Nottingham. I don't really want to go too much further than that, but naturally they seem to be conversions, because that's what's, we have to buy a value, it's got something there already. New builds are very hard to stack around us. I think there's a minimum size we'll do now. So I'm not going to go and do a conversion for 4 units, because it's not worth our time to go and do one site at that value. So I think for us, it's got to be 10, 12 units plus to make it worthwhile. And I think looking more opportunities.
I've got a question for you. So what makes Jim tick, right? Because this is a complicated, stressful environment, and you need to have a lot of get up and go to keep moving in this industry. So what makes Jim tick, and what gets you out of bed in the morning, and what's your drive and motivation for it?
That is a good question, definitely. Why do we do what we do, eh? So I think for me, it's twofold. I've kind of got a bit of a loose plan in my head of why I'm doing it, where I want to go. So I think ultimately is for the shorter term, so next 5 to maybe 10 years, is I want to build enough wealth up and kind of assets and wealth and everything else to basically be in a position where I'm very, very comfortable, and I've got enough kind of behind me to actually be able to help other people. So one of my longer term goals in life is to be able to help others in one way, shape or form. And I don't quite know how that's going to, materialize as such, but I feel like I need to be in a position where I can, have enough security myself, where it's, some people call it like the fuck it money, where you can go, fuck it, don't want to do this, or don't want to do that. And you've got enough money to just say, I'm not doing it. And I think that's kind of the position I want to be in. And, I mean, I do little things, I'm a part of a foundation at the minute, and, and I want to be able to help others, be it entrepreneurs, people struggling in life. But I feel like I also need to work on myself and build up a level where I don't need to be hustling every day to allow myself to help others more, if that makes sense. So that's kind of my main motivation.
So you're a good person, Jim, is what you're saying. What about staff count? So you're at 5 at the moment. Have you got any bottlenecks where you need to employ some more staff or bring some more resources into the business?
Yeah, I think I think on the project side and the delivery side, we probably need to hire another project manager or project admin, or someone on that side. And I think naturally that depends on what else we get project wise. So if we get another project through, we're going to definitely need to hire someone else. So I think it naturally flows a little bit, but we've got quite a good little team in a minute. Definitely. And I think
what would you say your biggest challenges sort of generally?
That's a good question. I mean, one thing I know I'm not particularly good at is being a good manager and a good people person with staff, and trying to work on a bit more. I'm quite, because you know what you want to do. Is sometimes you just like want to get on with it, but I'm not very good at being empathetic to other people.
Empathizing. Yeah.
So that's something I need to work on a bit more. And I think, one thing we need to start as an office at the minute. So we were in an office owned by the council. The council basically gave 28 days for 100 odd tenants to move out. So we had to like move out, disrupt us, move in temporarily somewhere.
That's not like a public company to do something like that.
I know.
Oh, they're normally really nice.
I know. It's shocking. It is shocking. But ironically, the building we're in, I've always said it was right for conversion. So I've kind of got my eye on that now, seeing what angle can I get to buy it or do something with it. But I think challenges, they're kind of our main things at the minute. And we're in a period this year where we've got sites going on, we've got 200 PCE, we've got, sell out on our bungalow schemes. I'm kind of just want to find a bit of a level this year and not overstretch ourselves, and just kind of like get out and go to the next phase and build up ready for next year. Get some more stuff in the pipeline.
Pipeline, baby. Pipeline. What's your tack to raising money and finding sites, Jim? What's your sort of go-to?
Yeah, so I'll start with the raising money side. So there's always a thing in development, right, where you've either got enough money and not enough sites. So you've got too many sites, not enough money. So I'm in a position where luckily we've got a lot of funding coming our way. So one of the equity guys who's funded our mill, he keeps badgering me saying, I've got money. I need the sites, but I really like it. And I'm going, great. I've just not got anything. And he wanted to take a step up. So he's like, I've got 1 mil, 2 mil that I can chuck into one of your sites. So I'm like, that's really good news, but I need to find them. And naturally, like the investors on my current projects, once we've finished and sold out, they want to reinvest as well. So we've kind of got a good pool of equity building, but we need to go and find stuff. So I've got a lady who works for me part-time called Holly, who basically helps our acquisitions. So she'll do a lot of that initial data gathering, get all plans, do our spreadsheets. Now I can sort of dive in and look at them. I think that's been a bit of a bottleneck for me, is actually doing the analysis on sites.
Yeah. It can be easy to put off sometimes, can't it? If you've not got someone feeding you stuff, you go, oh, when do I sit down on the laptop and do some fucking digging, some deep dive on a weekend or something?
Yeah, 100%.
Nice, mate. That's good though, because the main thing is you can find the sites with your own aptitude and energy, right? But finding equity capital can take a considerable amount more effort and time, variables out of your control. So if you've got that already, then that's the sign of a strong developer. I think that if you've got equity capital underneath you, you just need to deploy the energy rather than have to do the rounds and try and raise.
Yeah, that's it. It's kind of, you need to be tickling along things always. You can't stop. You've always got to be like keeping those lines of communication open. So yeah, but it's a good position to be in,
definitely, mate. Anything to bring to the table, Jim? Any questions or any topics or anything else to close out this pod?
I think going back to when she asked me why do I do what I do, as well as doing it to help others, I also I love my freedom, right? And I love being able to do what I want when I want. So I think that's another reason of building enough wealth up to a point where I can go and work from where I want to work from. If I want to go away, so I can go away and not feel guilty that I've got to be there working, doing this, doing that. So I think that's been a longer term goal of mine, to be able to work from wherever I want, run my own business, be my own boss, which I am now, but 10 years ago I wasn't. So
Jim, I've got a question for you, because knowing you for a couple of years now, and Clash is a good mate of mine. So you like your hiking, you like your skiing. My question is, if you could only do one for the rest of your life between skiing and hiking, or cycling, cycling. You're a massive cycler. You love your hiking and your skiing, so you've got to choose one for the rest of your life. Which one are you going to choose and why?
Oh, that's a good question. I would probably actually choose hiking, if I was to choose one.
Really?
And
Interesting.
the reason being is I can do it all year round.
Right.
Yeah, fair.
Skiing, you're limited a little bit. And I
That
think
means you're going to miss the ground up ski.
You live in the
trip
mountains.
no, I bring the boots, right? I'll be up.
Oh, you're hike alongside.
You can ski all year round, just around the different parts of the world.
Yeah.
Well, they're
excellent.
saying that there's going to be no snow in Europe in like 38 years.
Oh, there you go.
So
It's
to
38
ski, you're
years.
gonna
I'll be
have to
hiking
go-
you.
That's all right, Jax. We're thinking of going to Whistler, so there's plenty of snow over there for
Canada.
the next 38 years anyway.
Yeah, I mean, judging by Jim's inner size leg measurement, he could cross the pond quite easy in a couple of steps.
Fucking right,
Jim,
mate.
just on the hiking thing, you love doing your hiking on your own, don't you? So you like going up on a mountain, you love wild camping, staying out at the stars, man. Is that just to reflect on life, or just to sort of just be at one with nature? What's the
I think, yeah. I mean, I enjoy the mental challenge and the clarity it brings, and just kind of like get yourself out of your current situation. And it comes down to, we all know as running businesses, right? And especially in development, it's stressful, a lot of shit to deal with, a lot of stuff to go down. And I think you've got to have some sort of outlet for it in one way, shape, or form. And I was speaking to a developer a few days ago about this, actually, where, if you don't have that, you're going to burn out, you're going to make bad decisions, and you're just not going to be in a good place. And everyone's got their own little thing of how they vent that out. For me, it's going hiking, to go out in the mountains, not seeing anyone, not doing anything. It's just pure, just de-stress, if you like, and just not have to think about the current situations I'm in, or even to think about it, but in a different environment. And So I think that's one of the main reasons I do it. And I just enjoy it. It's a bit of a challenge. It's yeah.
What's your work-life balance like, Jim? We were banging on about that in the last episode. We got pretty deep on it, but how often are you working each week? Are you a Jack level where you're working every second, every hour? You're going fucking crazy, boy.
You're
Or
9 out of 10.
Are you more like Stu? You go on the fucking bougie holidays.
We did 100 mile an hour, didn't we? Is what we did.
Yeah.
1 to 100. If Elon Musk is 100 mile an hour, and
I'm
living on the dial is a 0.
I'm probably about 75.
Yeah, fair enough.
Percent. And I think some days I'll be working like my arse off, and I'll be like actually like balls to the wall and get stuff done because I know I've got important stuff to do. But I do try and purposely take time out more so the weekend. But I don't think there's such thing as a work-life balance. It's just my life. I run my business. I enjoy what I enjoy. I do this, do that, and it's kind of it all mingles into one. And I think it's quite hard for people who are in that stage to understand. Talking about relationships and stuff like that. If someone is in a similar situation, they'll go, "It's 5 o'clock. Why are you still working?" I'm like, "I've got shit to do." But at the same time, if I want to go and have brunch with someone or go and meet someone for lunch on a social site, I can because I'm flexible, mate. Right? But I think, yeah, I mean, I generally work in Monday is my busiest day. Monday, I work Saturdays, most Saturdays, just because I like you don't get phone calls, you don't get hassled on a Saturday, and you can just sort of catch up and get on with what you want. And I enjoy it. I enjoy what I do, right? I like the challenge of it. I like getting stuff done, and I like achieving things. And I think if I don't get things done, there's so much builds up. I'd rather work on it, bring that list down, and it just clears my mind. Whereas if I don't do it, it's just going to build up stress levels anyway.
Sitting around Jim on holiday as well, and he's in the, literally as soon as he got off the skis, he had his laptop open and he was doing this and that. I thought, fuck no, this guy does like to work, man. He's working. What I realise is he's not working. He's booking nice fancy hotels that he's moving on to for a 3-week round the Europe trip, and he's looking at what spa hotel he wants to stay in Italy. I'm like, oh right, okay. He just looks so busy all the time.
Good on you.
That was it, wasn't it? It was like, I think saw something on a laptop. He's like, "Oh, are you working again, Jim?" I was like, "No, I'm booking a spa hotel for tomorrow."
Well, I think that the thing with work-life balance is most people don't enjoy what they do, and that's where they think that's where they think they're working too hard. But if you enjoy what you do, it doesn't feel that much like work. There's shit bits, but then there's the bits that you enjoy, and fucking fair play to you, mate. If you enjoy what you do, ace, you've won the lottery of life. But that brings us to literally an hour and a half and about 2 seconds. So there we are, hour and a half. So nice one, Jimbo. Thank you for joining us. Dorian, the elusive fucking magician that he is in and out. We're not sure where he's gone. But yeah, big love D as well. Thank you for everyone listening to this podcast. We release them every Thursday, 5:30 a.m, Spotify and YouTube. Jim, where can people find you if they're going to go follow you on Instagram, have a chinwag? What's the handle?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on Instagram, Jim Crofts Property, and then I've also got Crossover Property on Instagram and Facebook. So yeah, come and find me on there, give me a follow, and yeah.
Big love, everyone listening. Anything to close out, boys?
I'm sure we'll get Jim back again. If someone can't fill in, I know we've got Rowan as well, so we've just got a few good guys that we can lean on if someone can't make a pod. So I'm sure you'll see Jim again in the future. But yeah, thanks for coming on, mate. It's lovely talking to you on camera.
Do you listen to him, Jim? Do you listen to the pod?
I do. Yeah, I've been an avid listener since episode 1.
Have you really?
Big love,
There you
Jim.
go.
All right.
Enjoy this
Thanks.
one then.
We haven't mentioned Bitcoin this whole episode.
Oh shit! Well,
What
quick,
about you, mate? It's all about you. Go on.
As long as you bought some Bitcoin, Jim, then we can close out. If you've not, then we might have to do another hour.
I bought some more yesterday. So
There we go.
Oh, what a legend!
Good.
That's spending a week with me
Ryan, did Stu tell you that on our weekly calls that we do with a shout out to Ground Up Network? So we've got a community behind, obviously, what you see here, where us guys give up our valuable time to do sort of a round circle check-in every week. But anyway, one of the guys on the weekly check-in was like, "Yeah, Stuart is a little bit much about
They don't want to set me off. I'm like,
just
all right. I knew Jack was held on to that. He's like, yeah, there's some people who are happy. Like, you spend 6 days, mate. He needs to come and spend 6 days in a chalet skiing with me, mate, and we'll convert him. We converted like 3, didn't we, Ryan? There's free Bitcoiners. There's 3 more on this planet. Good on them and all.
We've done our bit, mate. Done our bit for the world. Big love, everyone listening. Thank you. Subscribe. Share this episode with anyone who you think might find it useful. And see you next week.
Round up sound. Ooh, yeah. Real estate deals. We let